Hi everybody, I'm Charlie and this is On Air, my Beatles collection. As you know, I have posted a lot of box sets and bootlegs of late, and I've started to show some early Beatles singles here in the US, and these are non-Capitol label. So this is before Capitol took over and basically completed out the Beatles' career from early '64 on. But anyway, today's focus is going to be the VJ label. I mentioned in another video that because Capitol turned down the opportunity in 1963 to release Beatles singles here in the US, that didn't preclude them from releasing Beatles singles in Canada. So many of the records, many of the songs that showed up on early non-Capitol labels here in the US, VJ, Tolly, Swan, those labels. And I'm going to do videos on all those. I've already done the Swan video, and I've already done the Tolly video, actually. Now you're going to see the VJ stuff. Capitol actually released most of these songs on the Capitol of Canada label, sometimes known as the Capitol 7000 series, because the catalog numbers all begin with a 7. Anyway, you can check out the Capitol of Canada video that I did, and you'll understand what I'm talking about if you don't already. So anyway, VJ kind of took over a part of the catalog, and they were pretty much an early adopter, and so some of the records that got released on VJ are quite valuable. Of course, eventually they all wound up on the Capitol Starline series label later on when Capitol recaptured the rights. And the Starline series was sort of an oldies label. Rather than the traditional Capitol orange swirl, it was a green swirl. And that indicated that it was, at that point in time, that was an indication that it was a Starline series, and that indicated that it was an oldie. So anything that had already been a hit, but Capitol wanted to get a record out in the catalog, eventually they put it on that green swirl label. So anyway, let's talk about VJ for today. So I have my white gloves on because I'm going to be handling records and picture sleeves. But first I wanted to talk about the first VJ record, which I do not have, and I wish I did. And that's VJ number 498, VJ 498. And that featured Please Please Me and Ask Me Why. And that was first pressed in early 1963. Actually, the actual first pressing had 2 T's in Beatles, Beattles. There was a second press and ultimately a third press. Both of the first and second press were on the VJ Oval label, and I'm going to show you examples of the VJ Oval label later. And the third press had the VJ Brackets label. They're all hard to find in good condition. They're limited quantities. They go for really a lot of money if they're in good shape. And they have eluded me so far. I'd love to have the 2 T's one. That's the best of the 3. My friend David Renfro, if he's watching, he has one. And I've asked him to leave that in his will. I'm a lot older than him, though, so I'm not sure that's going to happen. Anyway, my VJ collection starts with VJ 522. And that's what we have right here. And this is From Me to You with Thank You Girl. Take it out of that. I have a factory sleeve for that. But I don't keep it in the factory sleeve because the factory sleeves are a little bit flimsy. Anyway, this is the factory sleeve. Pretty thin paper. But anyway, this record is in, I would say, very good shape. There is some writing on the label. Actually, it's not writing. It's a piece of tape and a black mark that you can see over here, I believe. Here's the tape and here's the black mark down there. And on the B side, there's a little bubble. Looks like there might have been tape and somebody pulled it off. And you can see there's a little wear around the play hole there. But, I mean, for a record that came out in 1964, January of 1964, when the Beatles were really first burst onto the scene here in the U.S., they had not yet been on the Ed Sullivan Show, which really was a major turning point. But they already had a #1 with I Want to Hold Your Hand in late January. And so anybody who had rights to any Beatles songs was reissuing them. This wasn't technically a reissue because of the configuration of it. There was no prior release of From Me to You or Thank You Girl. There was in terms of, there was other pressings. So this, I believe, is a third pressing. The first two pressings of From Me to You and Thank You Girl were earlier in '63, and they had the oval label. This is the brackets label. So this would have been January of '64, and this would be the last pressing of this record. Actually, this one is pretty limited because of when it was, and this was the last gasp of VJ in terms of this particular record. So anyway, that's this was a January '64 release, and it is listed in, and I'll just remind you, in all these videos, I've been using the Perry Cox price guide, which is from 2007, 2008. And so, none of these prices probably mean anything right now. I haven't seen too many transactions on Discogs to validate a current price. So I'll just tell you what the Perry Cox price guide says about the VJ 522 black label with the brackets logo for January '64 pressing, which would have been the third pressing. And that Perry Cox price guide shows a price range of $120 to $1,200. $120 to $1,200. There's no way this record is worth $1,200. It's probably in this condition with what's going on around the play hole there and the label and so on. I'd say 200, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. But anyway, I'm giving you the Perry Cox price guide just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on. At what was thought to be the value at the time of the book was written. The next one I have is also, has a pretty significant price range or value to it. This is a promo for VJ 581, which Pat Bardsley chose to put her autograph on. So this is Please Please Me. Pat put her autograph on both sides. And this is From Me to You. So, VJ 522, of course, that I just showed you, had From Me to You. And Thank You Girl. This is From Me to You and Please Please Me, which in essence combines VJ 498 and VJ 522 into a double A side. VJ had already issued Please Please Me, and they had already issued From Me to You on VJ 498 and VJ 522. Now here we have VJ 581, and we have Please Please Me. And this is the promo, of course, and From Me to You. Now the price guide value on this one is $85 to $850. I haven't seen a promo sell lately, so I don't know what the current value is. And as I said, I'm only trying to show the Perry Cox price guide value, so you get a feel for the relative value of each of these. And we're kind of going in descending order too, to be honest. So here's another VJ 581. This also has a factory sleeve. A lot of these have factory sleeves, or I've already removed the factory sleeve and put it somewhere else. At first I thought this was a promo, but it's not. You just saw the promo. Here is one of the releases. And of course, this is unusual in that there's no brackets, there's no oval. It's black letters, or yeah, black letters on a white background. Please please me, and from me to you. There's a little darkness on this. There's a little wear on the label, as you can see, on both sides. There's kind of a ring there, but still pretty exceptional condition considering. So this white label, and with the black print, is a little more common, but I don't know. You don't see a lot of them. It was common at the time, I guess, but you don't see much of them, or many of them. This had a Perry Cox price guide value of $25 to $250. Again, I'm not going to really try to put a value on it in that respect. It does have some flaws. You can't probably see them, but over here there's a couple little bubbles that will at least cause your tone arm to jump a little bit. It may not skip, but it's definitely a visual flaw. And then the from me to you side is kind of in the same condition. It has a couple little bubbles here and there. So I would put it at the lower end of the value. But it's still probably, in today's dollars, it's probably still $100 or something like that. It's hard to say. Here's another, please please me. This one is quite a bit more common. Again, a factory sleeve. This factory sleeve is a repro, by the way. Sometimes I use those for decorative purposes, and I keep the real ones, in a separate location. So this is a VJ 581 as well. This is, again, please please me. Now this is on a VJ brackets label. There's a couple of, that's lint. I just wiped it off. This is the VJ brackets label. As you can see, the label is not quite the way it's supposed to be. First of all, the title of the song is way off to the left, and you can see that the color band is uneven around. You might think that's a sign of that it's counterfeit. It is not a counterfeit. It has all the proper markings in the edge and so on, and in the runoff. But that's what they did. They look at that one. I mean, look at how far off to the left it is. So the other side looks pretty good. Again, there's a little bit of lint on there. I'll wipe that off so you don't get confused. It's just lint. Of course, it's moving around the room. Oh, that's just light reflecting. I thought it was lint. Anyway, this is the one that most people would probably have had, or one of the ones that most people would have had. And also, so that had a value of, the Perry Cox price guide, which is almost 20 years ago, between 12 and 120. Now, the way that price guide works is the 12 end would be something that's barely playable, and the 120 would be something that's almost perfect. So most people don't have either one. If they do, they have kind of the one that's, at the low end. That's clearly not at the low end, certainly not near mint. So, maybe it would have been in the mid-range of that value range. Now, the thing that is most exciting about that one is there was also a picture sleeve. The picture sleeve is worth more than the record. In this condition, it's worth quite a bit, actually. I remember buying this at a Beatles Fest, now known as the Fest for Beatles fans. I remember buying this from Rockaway Records several years ago, maybe 20 years ago. I'm not sure how long ago. And I think I paid $200 at the time. That might have been a little too much to pay at the time. Rockaway, in many cases at a Beatles Fest, in many cases, they're the only sizable dealer that has really near mint type stuff, and they get the price for it. This one is not near mint, but it's very good. It does have a flaw in it over here. You'll see there's a little bite out of there, like the dog got to it. There's some some glue extrusion over here. I keep cardboard in all of my sleeves just to keep them rigid and to keep them from any other further damage. So anyway, the Please Please Me sleeve came out, when Please Please Me was at, pretty much the height of its success in the marketplace. That's when that came out, VJ 581, and the sleeve as well. So that was in '64. Then we're going to skip now over to VJ 587. Again, I have a repro sleeve. 587 is Do You Want to Know a Secret? And again, you see the issue with the rainbow color band. It gets kind of skinny down here and it's kind of chubby over there. Not sure what's going on with that, but that was a factory issue. Same thing on this side. You can see on this one, similar to the other one I showed you, the print is off to the left on this. So you see where it says the Beatles. It's not directly under the center of the VJ brackets at the top, and nor is the Thank You Girl title. This side is much better aligned, although it's a little bit high and it's hitting the hole there. Thank You Girl, I mentioned earlier, Thank You Girl was released as the B-side of VJ 522, with From Me to You being the A-side. Now we get it again as the B-side to Do You Want to Know a Secret? And that's because VJ only had a limited number of songs that they had the rights to. So, they were pumping this stuff out in as many different configurations as they could to sort of milk the catalog. I did videos previously about VJ albums. And, basically, VJ had introducing the Beatles as their core product, that album, and which is the most counterfeited album in history, by the way. Chances are, if you have one, it's a counterfeit. Odds, the percentages would say that. That was mostly culled from the Please Please Me album in the UK. But Introducing the Beatles was released in many forms. If you bought Songs, Pictures, and Stories of the Fabulous Beatles, guess what you got when you took the record out of the jacket? It said Introducing the Beatles. So, they literally were putting different covers on albums to try to milk the songs, and using pictures as well over and over again. Like this one. These images, this is a VJ label for VJ 587. Do You Want to Know a Secret? And Thank You Girl. This is a West Coast cut there. This is the other side of that. Again, I have the cardboard in there. This is in really good condition for a VJ sleeve. It's, the paper sleeve. It doesn't really have a sheen on it. It's not all that rigid, but it's held up quite well. You'll see that image again on other VJ product. Here's another copy of Do You Want to Know a Secret? This one is, I'm sorry, I don't know if I said the value range on that first one. The value range on that was 25 to 100 from the Perry Cox price guide. This one has a value range of from 10 to 100. This one is clearly not at the 100 end. First of all, it's the VJ brackets logo, but somebody colored it in because it's supposed to be white, and on the other side, it is white. They also wrote on it. So if you look carefully, you can see somebody wrote Paul there. Not sure why, because Paul didn't sing it. I don't know if Paul was the owner or not, but maybe they thought it was Paul that was the singer. And the B-side, ironically, as Linda M. Too early to be Linda McCartney or Linda Eastman, but it's Linda M. Linda must have been the owner. But anyway, that's Do You Want to Know a Secret? You can see there's a lot of wear to the color band on that, even though it's a little more organized and shaped properly. This side is not. This side is weak on this side and stronger on that side. And again, there's a lot of wear on it. I said 10 to 100 was the book value, the Perry Cox book value. You know, that would have been at the lower end. Here's another one from of the same variety. Do you want to know a secret? 587. This one's in a little better condition. Nobody colored in the brackets, VJ brackets, but somebody wrote Paul over here. And on the other side, somebody wrote George over here, right here. And they also wrote Jackie up here. So Jackie must have been the owner. And this one understood that it was George singing, "Do You Want to Know a Secret?" And they gave Paul credit for "Thank You, Girl." And that one is, as I said, is in the same price range, 10 to 100, again, from 20 years ago. Here's another variation on the same record on the VJ label, only in this case it's gray on black. So black label, gray background. Do you want to know a secret? And "Thank You, Girl." This one is not in very good shape. You can't really see it, but there's quite a bit of wear on this. There's quite a bit of light scratching, but a lot of it. This record was played a lot. You can see some scratches up there. Some of it's not scratches. Some of it is staining or residue. This needs a good cleaning. It'd be a lot better, but it still would be scratched. So, you know, you can't get rid of scratches with cleaning. And that one, that particular label, and that one had a value of 7 to 75. It would take a lot to get 75 for that, I would think. Here's another one of those. This one's in a little better condition, but not much better. I still find that label to be interesting because it doesn't have the traditional brackets and it doesn't have the traditional oval, which you know, most VJ records had. This is the B side, "Thank You, Girl." As you can see, there is writing on this. You have to really hold it on an angle to even see it because it was written. It looks like L-A-I-T. I don't know. Maybe you can see it if I hold on an angle. Maybe you can read it. I can't. And there's also residue from a sticker. See if there's anything on this side. So that they wrote it on the B side, the "Thank You, Girl" side. Doesn't look like there's anything on this side. I'll twirl it around. I don't see anything even if you look at it sideways. And again, this one was in the $7 to $75 range. Here's one with the oval logo. Somebody left a sticker on this one from their own little record carrier. There's the B side of that. "Thank You, Girl." So that's a pretty good example of a oval logo. Sometimes you also see the VJ oval logo on the color band. This is on a silver on black, which is I think in the latter days this became more common, and this is a $7 to $75 range. I have two more records here from VJ. They both are related to. I'm going to turn the camera and I'm going to point to something. They're both related. To that. Sorry, I'm trying to get my finger to not look gigantic. That EP. That is VJ EP 1903. VJ's souvenir of their visit to America. And I have two versions of that. This is by far the most common. And this is a nice clean VJ label with the oval logo, nice perfectly formed circle color band in very good shape. Of course, there's 4 songs on here. So you got Misery and A Taste of Honey on that side. This is an EP. And you got Ask Me Why and Anna. So, of course, Ask Me Why was originally on VJ 498. So it had been released already as a single. The others had not. So this is the more common. A lot of people have that EP. And I remember buying this in the early 90s in Greenwich Village in New York City at the House of Oldies. And I questioned it at the time because it looked too clean and too nice to be 10 years old. But it is legit, but it isn't the one that you want to collect if you can collect. This particular version is in the Perry Cox price guide from $7 to $70 without the cover. The cover was in that price guide for $10 to $150, which would put a near mint copy with cover at $220 at the time. I've seen them go for that much and more, particularly if they're in that kind of condition. And the cover that I have on my wall is in essence near mint. This is to me, it is the one that I consider more precious and more valuable, and the price guide confirms that. This is full VJ spelled out, not just the letters VJ, with records under it. No brackets, no oval, no color band. Same songs, of course. Now this has a price guide value of $65 to $250, again from Perry Cox's book from 2007 or 8. Anyway, this is not near mint, but it's very good. It's certainly playable. There's no evident skips or gouges in it. It just looks like it was played a few times. There is some flaws, on the label. There's some wear that you can see with certain angles, but overall, not a bad piece. And for this version on this label variety, that's a good thing. So if you take the highest price in his price range for this and you add back the cover, now you're at $400 for near mint. I'm sure it's more than that if you had an actual near mint cover and this label variety. So that's the VJ singles catalog. I wish I had the 498. If you have one and you want to give it to me or will it to me, I don't care if it has the 2 T's, first pressing, or the second or third pressing, where they got the spelling right and the label changed a little bit. The actual, just to go back to that, the 498 with the 2 T's, it has the VJ oval label. And so does the second pressing, where the only difference is they fixed the 2 T's and turned it into 1 T. The third pressing has the VJ brackets. So they're all worth money, but if it has the oval and it has the 2 T's, that's the top of the line. It has the 1 T, it's still good. And if it has the brackets, it's still good, but not as good or not as valuable. Now, I'm not selling any of this stuff, so I hesitate to even talk about value sometimes because, it has no marketing value, no dollar value to me, because I'm not going to sell it in my lifetime. I would like my heirs to know, so they don't sell it at a tag sale for 25 cents or 5 cents. But other than that, I'm not sitting here in my counting house counting all my pennies or my records. So anyway, that's all I have today regarding the VJ 45's and EP. In this case, 45 singles and their one EP. And that's it for now. So thanks for stopping by. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, please hit the subscribe button and get to see more videos. I'm doing a whole series on these, so stay tuned for other ones, and hope you come back and see us. So take care. Bye.